All right. Hey guys, how are you doing? How has your week been? My week has been pretty good. I am waiting patiently for the AC to be repaired. So it's a little hot, but I got the fan on. So I hope it's not too loud. But if you hear that sound, that's the fan in the background. So let's just get into it. Today we are talking about how to love the unlovable, even if there are family member, because usually the people that irritate us the most is going to be our family members. It'll be our moms, our dads, our grandparents, our brothers, our sisters. If we're married, our significant other, husband, wife. And if you have kids, it'll be your kids. It'll be the person that you work with. It'll be someone that you're close to. You know, um, Jesus said it, that the enemies are in our household. And the word household there includes people that you are like blood related to, people who maybe you go to church together, you come from the same denomination, and it also includes people from your ethnic background. So let's say if you are European, like maybe you're from Germany, um, it'll be people who are from Germany that will hate you the most. Um, so it's always going to be people who look like us, maybe come from a similar background, come from a similar family or same family. So it could be genetically related. And that's the household that Jesus is talking about. So let's jump into the principle that we're learning today, the spiritual principle. This is a love principle that Jesus taught us in Matthew chapter 5. And we're going to go through the other places that it's mentioned so that we can get some more understanding. So go with me to Matthew 5, verses 38 to 48. I'm going to be using the Amplified Classic version today. So if you are using a different version, that's fine. But if you want to follow along, that's the version that I'm using. So verse 38 says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the evil man or who injures you. But if anyone strikes you on the right jaw or cheek, turn to him the other one too. But if anyone wants to sue you and take your undershirt or your tunic, let him have your coat also. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him too. Give to him who keeps on begging from you, and do not turn away from him who would borrow at interest from you. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Verse 45 says, "The reason why we do this is because to show that you are the children of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the wicked and on the good, and makes the rain fall upon the upright and the wrongdoers alike. For if you love those who love you, what reward can you have? Do not even the tax collectors do that? And if you greet only your brethren, what more than others are you doing? Do not even the Gentiles or the heathen do that?" Verse 48, "You therefore must be perfect, growing into complete maturity of godliness in mind and character, having reached the proper height of virtue and integrity, as your heavenly Father is perfect." So let's go to Luke 6, verses 27 to 36 now. So it says, "But I say to you who are listening now to me," this is Jesus talking, "in order to heed, make it a practice to love your enemies, treat well, do good to, act nobly toward those who detest you and pursue you with hatred. Invoke blessings upon and pray for the happiness of those who curse you. Implore God's blessing, his favor upon those who abuse you, who revile, reproach, disparage, and high-handedly misuse you. To the one who strikes you on the jaw or cheek, offer the other jaw or cheek also. And from him who takes away your outer garment, do not withhold your undergarment as well. Give away to everyone who begs of you, who is in want of necessities, and of him who takes away from you your goods, do not demand or require them back again. And as you would like and desire that men would do to you, do exactly to them. If you merely love those who love you, what quality of credit and thanks is that to you? For even the very sinners love their lovers, those who love them. And if you are kind and good and do favors to benefit those who are kind and good and do favors to and benefit you, what quality of credit and thanks is that to you? For even the preeminently sinful do the same. And if you lend money at interest to those from whom you hope to receive, what quality of credit and thanks is that to you? Even notorious sinners lend money and lend, expecting and hoping for nothing in return, but considering nothing as lost and despairing of no one. Then your recompense or your reward will be great. And by great, they mean rich, strong, intense, and abundant. And you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind and charitable and good to the ungrateful and the selfish and wicked. So be merciful, sympathetic, tender, responsive, and compassionate, even as your Father is also these. So here's the thing. Um, I used to practice witchcraft because I really had a problem with the principle of forgiveness. In the past, I felt like if I forgave somebody, that means that they're going to get away with it, or even that it makes me soft, or they'll take advantage of me again if I forgive them. But I didn't understand the principle of forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean that the person is going to get away with it. Forgiveness is simply the first step to justice. It's a principle. Now, God, he is the justice giver. So he has a system that he set up so that it's completely fair. But if we don't practice the principle and follow the instructions, we can't get justice from him. So in the past, I used to take matters into my own hands and put curses on people that annoyed me, family members, friends, just anybody really. Because I couldn't physically fight. Like I didn't really have the strength and power to fight them all the time. Sometimes I would fight, but like realistically, you can't fight everyone. Like maybe I might be able to take a couple of people, but not everybody. So I decided I need to find a stronger weapon, basically, other than my hands. So I decided to look into witchcraft. I knew a little bit about cursing because of where I grew up. And I knew that like if I said something, it would come to pass. So that's the principle that I would practice, putting curses on people. But I was out of line because God is the blesser and he's also the curser. So when I decided to put a curse on someone that offended me, I was in trouble with God because I did his job. So it's God's job to carry out revenge. It belongs to him. It's his assignment. It's kind of like, like you have a job, like you're at work, and like if somebody just comes up there to your job and starts doing your job for you, like it's wrong, right? Like you'd be like, hey, what are you doing? Like you're gonna mess up my work. You're gonna mess up, like, let's say you work in an office and somebody just comes into your office and starts rearranging things, moving around papers, deleting files, right? You would be like, what are you doing? Like you're messing up my system. So that's what I was doing. I basically went into God's office and was moving things around, deleting his files. When I decided to go and get revenge by cursing people who harmed me, I didn't follow the instructions. So go with me to Romans chapter 12, verse 14. So verse 14 says, bless those who persecute you. These were the instructions that I was given by God, but I didn't follow them because I felt, meaning I was going off of my emotion. I felt like, why should I bless somebody who's cursing me, right? I know, like in the past, like Matthew 5 says, you've heard that it was said an eye for an eye. Yes, we've all heard that. Like if somebody hits you, hit them back. That's what we were taught. But God is saying, I want you to do this. I want you to follow this principle. Do this instead. Why, Lord? Right? Why? Well, I'm going to use myself as an example as to why. About 4 years ago, I attempted suicide and failed because I decided to get revenge, and I decided to use witchcraft to do it. And I know, like, in people who have practiced witchcraft, they've heard of, like, things will come back to you third fold, like 3 times, but that's just not true. It's more like 7. Okay. And I learned that the hard way, that if we don't follow God's instructions, we're the ones that's going to get hurt, even if we were the victim. So yeah, someone did something to me that was really hurtful. And instead of me asking God for help and letting him deal with the person, I decided to deal with them myself. So I decided to put a spell, a curse on them. And that thing came back to hit me 7 times. So I was like driven crazy, and I was tormented by these evil spirits and demons, and I used to see like shadows in my room, things moving around. I would have really like gross nightmares, like extremely creepy dreams, like seeing figures come to me in my dream, seeing people like kill me in my dream, things like that. And then I also had like a lot of like near-death experiences where I would like almost get hit by a car, or I'd fall down somewhere. Just a lot of crazy things was happening to me, like within weeks at a time. So like weeks after I put that spell on that person, all these horrible things started happening to me. I was almost hit by a car multiple times. I fell, hurt my legs, and then I like almost lost my apartment because of like a technicality, and then like I almost lost my job, and like I had a lot of like issues with people like that I normally wouldn't have issues with. Just all these things was happening in my life. And I didn't realize that the reason why that was happening was because, a long time ago, I put a spell on someone, a curse to get back at them for hurting me. And I never let the Lord get revenge. I didn't let him deal with it. So I broke this spiritual principle. Um, and the spiritual principle is this. Verse 19 says of Romans 12 says, "Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave the way open for God's wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord." Meaning that's his job. So, I basically went into God's office and was like, yeah, I'm gonna like attack this person because they attacked me first. So just excuse me, like, can you just move? Like, that's what I did. Now, it sounds funny, but whenever we retaliate, that's essentially what we're doing. We're telling God, no, 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 no. I'm God. You're not. I'm the one that's God. So that's what I was doing. And so I was having all these horrible problems, and I couldn't figure out why this was happening. And later on, I found out this is why this was happening. I was putting myself in God's shoes. I was going into his personal space, into his lane, going into his office without his permission, and trying to get justice myself instead of letting him give me justice. I didn't follow the instructions. Now, God had mercy on me, and he did break those spells, those curses that I put on those people, and they're free from those curses that I put, right? Not anything else. Anything else they did on their own. But the curses I put on them, God broke them already. And things are good with me and those people. Now we have peace with each other. However, I could have just did it the right way the first time. I didn't have to go crazy. I didn't have to be in a room for a year, having panic attacks, having near-death experiences, having all types of weird objects moving around my room, seeing dark shadows moving around my room, having tormenting dreams of being killed, dreams of being sexually assaulted by beings. I didn't have that. I didn't have to have that happen to me. However, I'm sharing this to say we got to follow God's instructions. So going back to Romans 12, starting at verse 17, repay no one evil for evil. Meaning, if someone does something evil to us, don't retaliate. So what do you do instead, Nahila? This is what you do. But take thought for what's honest and proper and noble, aiming to be above reproach in the sight of everyone. This is what you have to do. This is the solution. Instead of retaliating, this is what we must do. But if your enemy, maybe let's say the person stole, let's say someone stole a position that you were supposed to have. So what do you do to that person who has stolen from you a position or whatever? If it's one of those physical stealing things, like someone steals your watch or something, or your car, report it to the police. Follow the instructions of the land of the law, the laws of the land. If someone breaks into your house, call the police. Follow the instructions. Let's say someone gossips about you. That's also a mean thing, right? Verse 20 says, "But if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him drink. For by doing so, you will heap burning coals upon his head. Do not let yourself be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Now, with each situation, it's going to be different. So the instructions here it's not a literal thing, but basically, if you were in that situation, you have to think, what would I want someone to do to me if I stole from them? I would want them to show me mercy. Meaning, let's say I stole a car and somebody calls the police and I'm arrested for that. and I could go to jail, I would want them to show me mercy. I would want them to say, don't do this again, and give me another chance not to do it again. That's what I would want. So that's what I would do if someone stole my car, and I reported them to the police, right? Followed the instructions, and I had an opportunity to press charges. I would choose to show mercy and say, you know what, I'm not going to press charges. I got my car back, you know, and this is an opportunity for this person to have a fresh start. Okay. Now let's say the person does it again. Right. They steal your car again. Now they have a problem, right? What do? Once again, follow the instructions. If someone steals something from you, like an actual item that you can actually report, report it to the police. And if this is like a second time offender, um, you may need to press charges this time. You see, because the person chose to do it again. They didn't receive the mercy the first time. So that's also a form of forgiveness. So the title of this is How to Love Your Enemies Without Being a Doormat. Forgiveness does not mean that the person doesn't have to face consequences for what they've done. Yes, they do. Sometimes, in certain situations, you may be able to just give them a warning sometimes. And sometimes it may be jail time. And sometimes it may be, I'm never going to talk to this person again, but I don't hate them. And sometimes it's, I'll talk to them again when they have shown me that they have changed. So this principle is not to be taken literally the way it's written. Everybody's situation is different. For example, if we have like a father who is abusive physically, we can't really be around them. So we're gonna have to love them from afar. You know, we can't be in an abusive household. So you can forgive your father, but stay away from him at the same time because he has a problem with hitting. Same thing with like a loved one, like maybe a sister. If we have a sister that has a problem with stealing, every time they come to your house, they steal something. So this is a form of forgiveness. Don't invite them over anymore. They have a problem with stealing. You can love them from afar. So instead of them coming over, maybe you just talk on the phone sometimes, or even not. Maybe it's you see each other on Facebook, and that's as far as it goes. It's going to look different in each situation, but the principle is still the same. If your sister comes over to your house and steals your computer, don't go to her house and steal her computer. Okay, don't do that. That's retaliation. Instead, if you can report it, do. Yeah, if it's a reportable thing. If you can deal with this outside of the court, then do it. But don't invite her over again if she has not changed her stealing habits. So we need wisdom. So each situation is different. Um, in my case, the problems that I have with certain people, um, I don't see them at all, but I'm friends with them on social media. But they are still my enemy, technically, because they haven't changed. They still do those things, but I don't talk to them. And when I do see them, I treat them like an acquaintance. We're not close. So we need to practice this principle with wisdom. It doesn't mean that, oh, because it says turn the other cheek, you literally turn the other cheek. That's not what it means. It means don't retaliate. Meaning, if we go to Romans 12 again, we read from verse 17 down. It says, repay no one evil for evil, but take thought for what is honest and proper and noble, aiming to be above reproach in the sight of everyone. If possible, meaning there are situations where you're not going to be able to be around this person because they have this habit of physical abuse, um, spiritual abuse, or just emotional abuse, or just abuse in general. Like you may have to be like, well, I can't really see my sister every week because whenever I see her, she's always like tearing me down. So I only see her when I have to, like maybe emergencies. And then when you see her and she says something mean to you, don't say anything mean back. Instead, just be quiet. Forgive her, pray for her, and just keep your lips shut. Don't take the bait. For example, I go to this place sometimes, and sometimes the person will just be rude to me for no reason, but I choose not to be rude back to them. I just stay quiet and I keep walking. I don't stop and say anything. I may say hello, when you can acknowledge the person's existence, but I don't engage in conversation. So this is an example of not repaying evil for evil. Even sometimes on YouTube, when I post videos, sometimes I might get mean comments, but you can actually go fact check me and go look at some of my shorts, and you see some of the ones with comments. There's some mean comments, and I don't respond to those at all. I only respond to the ones that are actually legitimately you actually have a real question and you're genuinely being kind. I respond. But to the ones that are mean, I respond in love always. I'll tell them to have a good week, or I'll just say something that's like a blessing. Like, what would I want someone to say to me? That's what I say to them. And you can actually go look this up for yourself and see I actually do practice this, and I'm not offended. So this is what I do. Sometimes I see the comment and then I'm like, oh, this person just said this really mean thing. I acknowledge it. This is mean. And then I say, Jesus, this person said this to me, and I give it to you. And I give it to him. I give him the mean comment. I give him the pain, and then I just release it. Okay? I don't keep it in my heart. I don't stay thinking about it. And then I pray for them. And then I go into the comment section and I type out a blessing. That's what I do every time. And that's the end. And I never think about them or what they said ever again. God. So that's what God is talking about. Now, I'm not saying every situation is like that. Sometimes you may have to sue someone. Sometimes you may have to call the police. Sometimes you may have to push somebody away from you in self-defense. Self-defense is not retaliation. So it just depends. So let's go to Romans 12, verse 18. It says, if possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. That's the goal. Now, living at peace with people doesn't mean that you get along with them. It doesn't mean that you agree. It just means you leave them alone. If you don't have a healthy relationship, you leave them alone. And if you don't agree, you just let them think what they want to think, and you mind your business. Verse 19, it says, beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave the way open for God's wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay or requite, says the Lord. Verse 20, but if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him drink. For by doing so, For by so doing you will heap burning coals upon his head. Do not let yourself be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. I also want us to go to Proverbs 25:21 to 22. And it says, if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat. And if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For in doing so, you will heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord will reward you. So everybody's situation is different. You know, um, in my situation, my current enemies are my parents, are my brothers and sisters. Not because like I actually have a problem with them or they have a problem with me, but when we surrender to Jesus and our family members are not, they're going to have a problem with us for absolutely no reason. Meaning they have a problem with Jesus, but since they can't see Jesus, all they see is us, so they take it out on us. That's just how it is. As Jesus has told us in the Bible, let's see, I'm going to pull it up right now in Matthew chapter 10. Go with me there. Matthew chapter 10. All right. Let's start. Okay. Verse 21. So Matthew chapter 10 verse 21 says, um brother will deliver up brother, and children will take a stand against their parents and will have them put to death. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake, but he who perseveres and endures to the end will be saved from spiritual disease and death in the world to come. Verse 23 says, when they persecute you in one town, that is, pursue you in a manner that would injure you and cause you to suffer because of your belief, flee to another town. For truly, I tell you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. Verse 24, a disciple is not above his teacher. So if you're watching this and you are a disciple of Jesus, and you are experiencing hate from your family members, even your spouse, your children, just know that if your family member isn't saved, they're going to hate you, not because of you, but because of Jesus. This is a principle. Why? Because this happened to Jesus. Like before we were saved, we hated Jesus. Like before any of us even like started following Jesus, we were his enemy. We treated him badly. We crucified him, we spit on him, we pulled out his beard. We did those things. It was us. Now that we're disciples of Jesus, now he's living his life through us. Now we're being treated like he's treated. So sometimes people will yell at us for no reason. Sometimes people are calling us names, like bad names, evil things, saying disgusting, vile things about us, wanting to kill us, death threats. I've gotten some death threats before. I've heard have people, even family members, threaten to kill me before, and I didn't do anything to them. But I know that like they have an issue, but the issue is not with me. And this is all because I've decided to follow Jesus. So verse 24, Jesus says to all of us, a disciple is not above his teacher, nor is a servant or slave above his master. Verse 25, it is sufficient for the disciple to be like his teacher, and the servant or slave like his master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, meaning the master of the house is Jesus, he's the master of the house, and they called him Beelzebub. I mean, people still say evil things about Jesus all the time. Even right now, you can like Google this thing. You'll see the evil things that people say about Jesus, even though he's physically in heaven, you know? he's still being talked about in an evil way, and he's never done anything wrong to anybody. So it says, if they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they speak evil of those of his household? Meaning, we're going to get called worse names. Us, disciples of Jesus, we're going to get called worse names because we are his disciples. So, jumping down to verse 38 says, verse 37 says, verse 35 says, Jesus says, for I have come to part asunder a man from his father, and a daughter from her mother, and a newly married wife from her mother-in-law. And by part asunder, Jesus came to bring a separation of love. And he says, a man's foes will be they of his own household. And like I said in the beginning, household here includes our relatives. So it could be our mother, our father, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Anybody that we call family, it includes them in the household. These are the people that will be our enemies, our foes, if they're not surrendered to God. Verse 37 says, he who loves and takes more pleasure in father or mother more than in me is not worthy of me. And he who loves and takes more pleasure in son or daughter more than in me is not worthy of me. So, in summary, how do we love our enemies? Do the good things that you would want to be done to you. Do a good week filled with love, because that's what I would want someone to say to me. And this you can fact check. The reason I'm sharing this is because how do we really truly love our enemies? We have to let Jesus love them through us. So this is the key. You can't do it in your own strength. Meaning, if you've never surrendered to Jesus, if Jesus doesn't live on the inside of you, and you're trying to love people in your own strength, you're probably doing, not even probably, you are just people pleasing, because you just can't do it without him. It's impossible. It's impossible to love people without Jesus. It's not going to work. Okay. All you'll end up doing is resenting them. So if you feel like resentful about somebody, if you right now have been thinking about punching somebody in the face, you've been thinking about it, not just like a thought came through your mind, but you're thinking about it, you've imagined it. Maybe you even decided to look up a spell, a little spell. Maybe you went and told one of your friends about this person, and you just let them have it with your words. Maybe you might have yelled at them. I am here to tell you, you're forgiven. And the way for this not to happen again is to surrender to Jesus. Let Jesus possess you, and then you can love your enemies. That's the only way. That's the truth. You can't love people without Jesus. It's not going to happen. It'll be fake. You'll be a doormat. You'll be people pleasing. So if you haven't already surrendered, I'm not talking about you go to church, you read your Bible, all of those things. I'm talking about Jesus has possessed you, spirit, soul, body, possessed by Jesus of Nazareth, the Christ. If he hasn't possessed you yet, go ahead and ask him right now to possess you. Just tell him the truth. Tell him I hate my mom, I hate my dad, I want to kill them. Just be honest. He already knows. It's not new information to him. It's just you've been keeping it a secret for all these years, and you feel all ashamed. Well, I'm here to tell you, I used to feel that way about my parents. I've even tried to kill my own dad, and Jesus stopped me. I've even tried to kill ex-spouses, and I even tried to kill cousins and stuff, pulled knives on people before, all of that, put spells on people. You name it, I did it. And I'm just here to say the same God that had mercy on me is the same God that you're feeling like if they say one more thing to you, you're gonna really like knock their head off. Ask Jesus for help right now. You don't have to end up on ABC News for murdering your family. You don't got to be another one. And don't feel ashamed. That is a natural feeling when you try to love people in your own strength, because it's impossible. We can't do it ourselves. See, that's the thing, that we were told a lie when we were younger. People are like, oh, just be a good person. That's foolishness. Even Jesus didn't call himself a good person. And he was actually perfect, because there's nothing good in us naturally. Our flesh, the flesh, I'm not talking about this body, I'm talking about the sinful nature, it's wicked. So it's normal in the sense of the ways of the flesh. It's a flesh thing to hate people who upset you. You're gonna, of course, you're gonna hate them. But if you let Jesus possess you, you won't. That's the only way. It doesn't matter how many seminars you go to. It doesn't matter how many yoga poses you do. It doesn't matter how many crystals, how many meditation music you listen to. If Jesus isn't possessing you, you ain't gonna love nobody. You can't even love yourself. And that's the truth. They lied to us when we were younger. We can't love people without Jesus. It's impossible. And that's why we end up all frustrated, ready to kill people after years and years and years of trying to do stuff for them, and they don't even appreciate us. You know why? Because we were trying to love them in our own strength instead of letting Jesus love them for us. We got to let him do it. We can't. I'm telling you. Save yourself a trip to prison. Ask Jesus to possess you today. So that's the end of our podcast episode. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Next week, we'll be back, same time, 1 p.m. If you have any questions, maybe you want to discuss a little bit more of this topic and you want some recommendations on videos or even books on where you can read more about this, send me an email if you just have general questions. And when I say questions, I'm talking about spiritual questions. If you have a question about what shirt you should wear, don't ask me. I don't know. I'm just talking about questions in terms of spirituality. Send them to me. So thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you have a good, peaceful week filled with joy. Bye.